All right, welcome. Today, we're going to deconstruct a medical belief that has pretty much dominated our thinking for over 70 years. We're going to draw on the work of cardiologist Dr. William Davis to explore how our entire approach to heart disease, well, it might be based on a huge mistake. Let's dig in and find the one decision that may have sent medicine down the wrong path for nearly a century.
For decades, the answer to this has seemed like a simple yes, right? We've all been told, watch your cholesterol. But what if that was just a massive oversimplification? What if the very thing we've all been measuring and trying to medicate isn't the real enemy at all?
I mean, that's a powerful statement. It suggests that countless people, maybe for their entire lives, have been focused on completely the wrong target in their fight against heart disease. So, to really get how we ended up here, we need to jump in a time machine.
So let's rewind the clock, because to understand what's happening right now, we have to go all the way back to a critical decision that was made in the 1950s, a decision that really shaped everything that came after. Okay, so picture this. It's the 1950s. Scientists have a really strong hunch. They're pretty sure that these tiny things in our blood called LDL particles are the culprits causing all that plaque in our arteries. But they hit a massive wall, a huge technological hurdle. They literally had no way to accurately count them. So they needed a stand-in, something cheap and simple, a proxy, that any clinic could measure. So they made a choice. A fateful one, it turns out. They decided to measure the amount of cholesterol carried inside the LDL particles and then use that number as a stand-in for the number of particles themselves. Now, to understand why this was such a critical mistake, let's use an analogy. This slide just shows the error perfectly. Imagine you're a police chief, and you're trying to count members of a gang who all happen to wear blue jeans. But you don't have facial recognition technology. So you tell your officers, just count every single pair of blue jeans you see in the city. You'd end up targeting countless innocent people, right? Well, that's exactly what happened with cholesterol. Cholesterol is just the blue jeans. It's an essential building block for every single cell in your body. It's not the criminal. It's just the cargo being carried by the potential criminals. Okay, so over time, the medical community started to realize that just counting the blue jeans, the cholesterol, was pretty flawed. They knew they needed an upgrade, and they thought they found a much better way to count the number of potential getaway cars on the road. So they turned to this thing called apolipoprotein B, or ApoB for short. Now, the logic here seems absolutely perfect. Every single one of those dangerous LDL and VLDL particles has exactly one ApoB molecule on its surface. Think of it like a unique license plate. So if you just count the ApoB, you should get the exact number of potentially dangerous particles. Problem solved, right? Well, not quite. So let's say you get your blood test back and you see this number. Your ApoB is 180. That's a big, scary red flag number on any lab report. You'd probably be pretty worried. But this one number is hiding a really crucial detail. And here's the brand new problem. An ApoB test, it's kind of like a traffic counter for a parking garage. It tells you there are 180 vehicles inside, sure, but it can't tell you if those are 180 harmless little bicycles or 180 massive trucks filled with toxic waste. The total number doesn't tell you anything about the nature of the threat. The size and the density of those particles, that's what really matters. So, if counting cholesterol is flawed and counting the total number of particles with ApoB is still incomplete, what should we be looking for? This is where modern technology, specifically something called NMR spectroscopy, finally lets us see the full picture and pinpoint the true villain. Meet the real culprit, small, dense LDL, or SD-LDL. You see, not all LDL particles are created equal. Most are large and fluffy, kind of like beach balls, and they tend to just bounce harmlessly off your artery walls. But SD-LDL particles, these are small, hard, and dense, like little golf balls. They can easily burrow into the arterial wall, get stuck, oxidize, and kick off the whole process of plaque formation. These are the particles that truly matter. And this is the really scary part. A high number of these little small SD-LDL golf balls isn't just a cholesterol problem. No, it's a giant flashing red light that your entire metabolic system is in crisis. It sets off this devastating chain reaction, a total domino effect. First, your good cholesterol, your HDL, it just plummets. Then your triglycerides and VLDL particles, they shoot through the roof. Next, your blood sugar control starts to fail. Then, system-wide inflammation just ignites. And finally, your blood pressure rises, and that dangerous visceral fat starts to build up around your organs. It's a complete metabolic collapse. And hey, this isn't just some theory. The data is overwhelmingly clear.
As this chart shows, and this is based on results from 55 separate human clinical trials, measuring the number of small, dense LDL particles is a vastly more accurate predictor of heart disease risk than either the old school cholesterol test or even the ApoB count. So the crucial point is this: we need to be counting the golf balls, not just the blue jeans or the total number of vehicles.
Okay, so we've identified the real bad guy, small, dense LDL. But that just leads to the next logical question, right? Where do these dangerous little particles even come from? What are we doing in our day-to-day lives that causes our body to start churning them out?
Well, Dr. Davis points to three main drivers. First, and this probably won't surprise you, is our modern diet, just loaded with sugar and refined carbs that lead straight to insulin resistance. Second are these really common deficiencies in key nutrients like magnesium and vitamin D that just mess up our metabolism. But the third one, this one reveals a surprising link between your gut and your heart, a condition called SIBO. Let's trace that pathway because it's fascinating. This is a direct and pretty wild pathway. So normally, your small intestine should have very few bacteria. But in SIBO, bacteria from your large intestine basically move in where they don't belong and overgrow. Now, as these bacteria die, they release these nasty toxins called endotoxins. These toxins get absorbed into your bloodstream and take a special highway that leads straight to your liver. This flood of toxins causes massive inflammation in the liver. And what does a stressed out, inflamed liver do? It goes into crisis mode and starts pumping out those dangerous, small, dense LDL particles. A problem that started in your gut is now a huge problem for your heart.
So at this point, you are probably asking the exact same thing I was. If the science is this clear, why isn't this the standard of care? Why hasn't my doctor told me any of this stuff? Well, the answer, unfortunately, lies in the structure of our medical system. This slide really illustrates two totally different approaches. The current pharmaceutical model, it's all about controlling surface-level numbers, like your total cholesterol, with expensive, patentable drugs. And that often just leads to managing your symptoms for life. The root cause model, on the other hand, is about actually fixing the underlying problem, the insulin resistance, the nutrient deficiencies, the gut issues, with really inexpensive tools like changing your diet and taking basic supplements. And that has the potential to actually reverse the condition.
It really just comes down to this. You can get a patent and make billions of dollars from a drug that lowers a number on a blood test. You can't get a patent for telling someone to eat fewer carbs or for selling them magnesium. There's just no massive financial incentive to fund huge conferences and teach doctors about the benefits of magnesium. And you know what? This is the most empowering part of this whole discussion. While the system might be slow to change, this knowledge gives you the power. The factors that truly drive the creation of these dangerous STLDL particles are almost entirely within your control through your diet, your lifestyle, and targeted nutrition. And this really brings us to one final critical question. For 70 years, we've all been focused on a flawed, outdated metric for heart disease. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? How many other health facts that we just take for granted are also just convenient, simplistic assumptions from a time on by? It's a thought worth considering. Thanks for joining us.